a ladder is rung after rung after rung. When we think about Yaakov dreaming of the ladder, we think about a person's growth, personal growth, spiritual growth, that it is incremental, one step, then another, then another. But that's when it comes to personal growth. When it comes to the destiny of the Jewish people, it's not incremental. The Medrash tells us it is min hakatza el hakatza. It's from one extreme to another. From the tachlis hashiflus, the lowest possible point, to the highest possible point. As the psukim in Tehillim, one after the other, the first pasuk says, Shachal afar nafshenu, we're cast down to the dust. In the next pasuk, Kuma Ezra Salanu Ufidenu, Hashem helps us and redeems us. We see this throughout the parsha. Hashem tells Yaakov, V'hoya zaracha ka'afar ha'oretz, your children will be like the dust of the earth, trampled on, downtrodden, the lowest possible. And immediately the next words, Ufaratzta, Yama v'kedma v'tzafayna v'negvi, will be strong and spread in all four directions, from one extreme, min hakatza el hakatza. And then look at the directions. If you wanted to say you're going to spread around all four directions, you would say, you'd go in order. North, east, south, west. Or maybe you'd go counterclockwise. But that's not what the pasuk says. It says Yama v'kedma, the west to the east. Two opposite directions, which the Kli Yakar explains, is this point. That from the west, when the sun is setting, when hope is lost, you will jump back to the east. The sun is rising. Optimism. From the north, the side where there is no sun. If you look at the skylights in the shul, you notice, did you ever get any glare from them? You didn't, because they're on the northern side. It's the south where you have southern exposure, where the sun travels along the south. From the north to the south. Why is it that this is how Jewish destiny needs to play out? That we have to be knocked down all the way down, and from there comes the highest geula, the ultimate geula shlema. The Kli Yakar explains, because what's needed for geula is for people to recognize that we are dependent on Hashem. That's the ingredient. It's that bitachon. And as long as we are not knocked down, we feel that we have still in our own power something that we can do to take care of ourselves, that hishtadlus, then we don't have that bitachon. And so only when the Klal Yisrael is knocked all the way down, and they feel that ein lanu lehishayin ela al avinu shebashamayim, they recognize that, and then Hashem saves us. We see this in the Haftorah of this week's parsha. The Navi Hosea describes one extreme and then another. First he talks about a horrific scene of what will happen to the Jewish people, and this sounds eerily familiar to what we've heard, what we've read about the Simchas Torah massacre. The pasuk says, B'cherev yipolu, they will fall by the sword. Olalehem yerutashu, their babies will be smashed. V'hario sav yevuka'u. That is a very specific graphic term. V'hario sav yevuka'u, and its pregnant women will be split open. You can hardly say the words. It is exactly the words of the Navi. And just 3 psukim later, the Navi paints this most idyllic picture of what will happen. Eyechatali Yisrael, I'll be like dew for Yisrael. Yifrach kashoshana, he will bloom like a rose. V'yach sharosh of kalavanon, the roots will spread like of a cedar tree. Yelchu yon koisav, his youth will go forth like young saplings. V'chazayis hodo will shine like olives, like olive trees. V'reach lo kalavanon, smelling of fragrant cedar. Yashuvu yoshve v'tzilo, they will return, sit in its shade. Yichayu dagon yifruchu chagofen, with grain and wine. They will blossom like clusters of grapes. Zichro kien levanon, fragrant like scented wine. From one extreme of horror, of shame, to this idyllic life. What happened in the intervening psukim? What is the bridge that gets us from the lowest of the low to the highest of the high? Of course, it's Shuva Yisrael, to do tshuva, but what specifically? The pasuk says, Ashur lo yoshienu. It's when the people realize that Ashur, the nation that we relied on, is not going to save us. America is not going to save us. Al sus lo nirkav. We're not going to ride our horses. We put our faith in our weapons. That's not going to help us. V'lo nomar od Elokeinu l'maaseh yadenu. We will no longer worship our handiwork, what we can do. Asher b'cha yerucham yasam. Only to Hashem, who takes compassion on the orphan. The orphan is the one that has no one to help them. They are helpless. Only Hashem can help them. We read about what's happening in Eretz Yisrael this week. Soldiers in a tunnel, a Hamas tunnel, terrorist tunnel, wired with enough explosives to level a city block, and the soldiers don't realize, and they're heading in, and all of a sudden a dove comes and lands on a tripwire, and they see that the tripwire is there. Who was protecting the soldiers then? Or when 3 troop transports, Namer tanks, each holding 12 soldiers, the generals see 3 of these tanks in flames, and they can't understand, how could this happen? What a failure. Was it an ambush? How are they going to tell 36 families the news? And then they get a call from one of the soldiers who was supposed to be one of those tanks, and they say, what's going on? We see on the camera here, your tank is burning. He said, well, let me tell you what happened. One of the treads broke, so we had to get out of the tank, and then another tank came behind us, and they saw we weren't there, so they ran out to look for us, and then a third tank. And so these 3 tanks that were going right into an ambush were saved. Who was protecting them? Or the soldier this week who found a Tehillim that he was wearing on him with a bullet lodged in its pages. Who was protecting them? And of course, the tragic, the people who were the victims on Simchas Torah, they had their weapons, but that didn't help. If we are going to take a lesson from all of this, it's not we should go out and buy a gun. That's not the lesson. Al sus lo nirkav. The lesson is that everything is Hashem, that all of the shmir, all of the protection comes from Hashem. Hashem protects, we're good. Hashem doesn't, nothing we can do. We have to put all of our trust in Hashem. That is the difference between the lowest of the low and the highest of the high, is that one point, our bitachon. So what can we do? Of course, we don't want any more of the bad. We just have to have our bitachon. How can we do it? There's a simple way. And there's a remez to this in the Haftorah itself. In the beginning, the Haftorah starts out, it paints the picture of what got the Jewish people at that time into this bad scenario, and it describes Kimar isam vayisba'u savu vayaram libam. They ate, they were satisfied, their heart got high. Al kain shechechuni, and they forgot me. When things are good, they didn't see Hashem. And at the end, we read the psukim from Yoel to finish off on a good note, as the Mishnah Berurah explains. He says, "Uchaltem usavatem vihilaltem es Hashem alakeichem." You will eat, you will be satisfied, and you will praise Hashem. That's the whole difference. You can eat and be full, or you can eat and be full and thank Hashem for it. Brachas. Make your brachas. That's why we're starting this new program in the shul, rewarding people who make 100 brachas. You know, our Baron Feldman, the Rosh Yeshiva of Ner Yisrael, as soon as this happened on October 7th, he said 100 brachas is what people should be doing. It's based on a medrash, describes a magefa that happened, and when they start, 100 people were dying a day, and when they started saying 100 brachas, it stopped. But on a basic level, what is a bracha? It's injecting throughout the day bitachon, melech ha'olam, that God is the king of the world. Our God, king of the world, who brought this food, who helped me be able to use the bathroom. King of the world, king of the world. And if you say your brachas with kavanah, I guarantee, you will have more bitachon, which will bring you more peace, more calm. And it's that ingredient that we need. If we can, if we recognize that everything is from Hashem, we rely on Hashem, then we are ready for the Geula to live in that nevuah from Hosea of Eyach Atali Yisrael Yifrach Kashashana, and the Geula Shleim of Meher V'mein Amen.